There was a time when that small blue passport meant everything. It was a symbol of trust, of freedom, of power. Holding it was like holding a global all-access pass, an invitation to the world. You could walk through airports anywhere and feel it. Confidence, respect, recognition. That passport didn't just open borders, it opened doors. It said, you belong here, you're safe, you're respected. But that's not how the world sees it anymore. In 2025, the US passport doesn't carry the same weight it once did. According to the Henley and Partners Passport Index, it ranks around 12th in global mobility. That means there are now more than 10 countries whose citizens can travel to more places without needing a visa. Singapore and Japan lead the list, followed by Spain, Germany, and South Korea. The US, once the global gold standard, now trails behind. So what changed? Why did one of the most powerful symbols of national identity lose its edge? And more importantly, what does this shift mean for everyday Americans trying to live, work, or retire abroad? Let's discuss these unexpected developments. Passport power doesn't measure luxury or privilege. It measures trust. When two countries agree to visa-free travel, they're saying, we trust your citizens, we trust your government, we trust your systems. That trust isn't earned overnight. It's built through reputation, stability, and reliability. For decades, the US set the global standard. Its passport was more than a travel document. It was a badge of credibility. It represented a country that others saw as stable, prosperous, and dependable. But trust is fragile, and over the past decade, that image of reliability has started to erode. Add to it the current administration's immigration policies haven't helped this downward slippage. When global trust slips, access follows. The biggest shift is that the world is no longer built around one dominant power. The 21st century is multipolar, meaning influence is spread among many nations. Countries like Singapore, Japan, and South Korea have built reputations for innovation, discipline, and technological leadership. The European Union projects stability through shared governance. Even smaller nations, Portugal, New Zealand, the UAE, have earned admiration for efficiency, safety, and diplomatic agility. Meanwhile, the US has become unpredictable. Frequent policy swings, government shutdowns, and deep political division have made the country harder to read and harder to trust. Every election feels like a reboot. Each administration changes the rules. And that instability doesn't just stay within US borders, it ripples outward. When a country looks divided at home, the world questions its reliability abroad. And that's when access, those invisible privileges, start to tighten. Here's another piece of the puzzle: reciprocity. Visa policies are like mirrors. When one nation imposes restrictions, the other often responds in kind. For years, the US has made it harder for foreigners to visit, study, or stay long-term. That approach might protect domestic interests, but it also carries diplomatic costs. Countries have started pushing back. Brazil recently reinstated visa requirements for Americans. Turkey, Thailand, and several Southeast Asian nations have followed similar paths. The message is clear. If you make it harder for our people, we'll make it harder for yours. And these policies don't just affect diplomats. They affect everyone. What used to be a quick weekend trip or a last-minute business flight now requires forms, fees, and waiting periods. It's bureaucracy in both directions, and it adds friction to global life. That friction costs time, money, and ultimately, opportunity. The weakening of the US passport isn't just about immigration or policy. It's about perception. Trust is built on consistency, cooperation, and credibility. And America's global image has become more polarized than ever. To outsiders, the US looks increasingly chaotic. Mass shootings, culture wars, misinformation and political gridlock dominate global headlines. The world sees a country that's powerful, yes, but unstable. And instability doesn't inspire confidence. Economically, too, the story has shifted. Rising national debt, volatile markets, and unpredictable interest rates make global partners nervous. In the 1990s, the dollar was the world's anchor. Today, countries are quietly diversifying away from it, creating regional trade alliances that rely less on the US. So, when we think about passport power, think of it like a credit score. A country's reputation is its rating. And when you start missing payments on stability, diplomacy, or global goodwill, your score drops. That's what's happening now. Let's make this real. Imagine you're a small business owner in Atlanta. You sell products internationally, and before the pandemic, you were constantly on the move, meeting partners, negotiating deals, exploring new markets. Back then, your US passport was your ticket to speed and simplicity. Now, not so much. Every country has new entry rules, new paperwork, or new digital authorizations. What used to take a few clicks might now take weeks. And your competitors, the ones in Germany, Japan, or Singapore, can travel visa-free. They can get there faster, close deals sooner, and build relationships you can't. That's not just an inconvenience. It's a competitive disadvantage. Or take retirees. Tens of thousands of Americans dream of retiring abroad, in Mexico, Portugal, Costa Rica, Panama. But as the US passport loses its edge, long-term stays in these countries are getting harder. More income verification, more background checks, more red tape. It's not impossible, but it's less welcoming than before. Freedom of movement isn't disappearing. It's just getting more conditional. Here's the bigger picture. We're living through one of the largest geopolitical realignments in modern history. In the 20th century, the United States was the anchor of global power, militarily, economically, and culturally. But in the 21st, power is being shared. China leads in trade and infrastructure. Japan and South Korea dominate technology and manufacturing. The EU drives diplomacy, and the Middle East and Africa are emerging as financial and energy hubs. The decline of the US passport isn't a fall. It's a reflection of balance. Other nations have gained credibility. They've earned more trust, and that's made their citizens more mobile. In other words, the world has caught up. Americans aren't losing freedom, they're just joining the rest of the pack. Here's the good news. You can adapt. You can't control global politics, but you can control your mobility strategy. Think of mobility like wealth. You can grow it, protect it, and diversify it. First, learn about residency programs that expand your access. Countries like Portugal, Panama, and Costa Rica offer long-term visas for remote workers, investors, and retirees. Legal residency abroad doesn't just give you more freedom, it gives you options if things change at home. Second, diversify how you earn. If all your income depends on one country's economy, your mobility is limited. Remote work, online businesses, or global investments give you flexibility, and flexibility is freedom. Third, build relationships across borders. Personal connections through business, education, or community often open doors, even when politics closes them. Freedom today isn't something you inherit. It's something you design. Let's bring that idea to life. A couple in their 40s from Chicago built a small online consulting business. They loved to travel, but grew frustrated after 2020. Constant visa changes, shifting requirements, unpredictable rules. So they adapted. They applied for Portugal's digital nomad visa, which allows remote workers to live and work legally in Europe. Now, they enjoy full residency, pay taxes transparently, and have access to universal healthcare. They can travel freely through the 27 nations of the Schengen zone, something many Americans can't do as easily anymore. Their US passport didn't give them that freedom. Their strategy did. That's the mindset this new era demands. Understanding that mobility isn't guaranteed, it's built. This shift isn't just about travel or convenience. It's about redefining freedom itself. Freedom used to mean crossing borders easily. Now, it means having the ability to move your life, your work, your family, your finances, wherever you choose. It's not about where you were born. It's about how prepared you are to adapt. So maybe it's time to think of your passport as just one piece of your mobility portfolio. Just like you diversify your investments, you diversify your access. That might mean a residency visa in one country, business partnerships in another, or even a second passport down the line. The goal isn't to escape America. It's to make sure you always have options. I probably know what you're thinking. Can the US recover its passport power? Maybe, but not overnight. If the US can restore diplomatic consistency, modernize its immigration systems, and rebuild global trust, it could regain ground. But that takes time, and global politics won't wait. Meanwhile, countries that treat mobility as an advantage, Singapore, the UAE, Portugal, are pulling ahead. They're building digital, user-friendly systems that make visas and residencies fast and seamless. The US, on the other hand, still runs on slow, 20th century bureaucracy. Until that changes, Americans will need to plan smarter, not harder. So let's bring this full circle. The US passport isn't what it used to be. It's still powerful, but it's no longer supreme. And that's okay, because freedom today isn't printed in a passport. It's built through awareness, adaptability, and action. The world has changed, and America's place in it has changed too. But that doesn't mean the story ends here. If you understand the shift, you can adapt faster than most. You can design a life that stays mobile, connected, and resilient, no matter how global politics reshapes the map. A blue booklet in your hand might not open every door anymore, but you still carry something even stronger: the power to open new ones yourself. Freedom isn't stamped or scanned. It's practiced every day. Thank you for listening. If you found this conversation valuable, share it with someone who travels, invests, or dreams globally. Because understanding how power shifts across borders isn't just about travel. It's about how you live your life, plan your future, and protect your independence. I'll see you in the next video.